Hey friends, how you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin, Daf 70 of Masechta Ksubis, friends. Today we start the 7th parak of Masechta Ksubis. Givaldi, we're really moving over here. Before you know it, Masechta Ksubis is going to be, let's just say this, we'll be on to Masechta Nedarim. We do still have 40 days. 40 days, just the right amount of time. Alright, Rosh Hashanah is coming up. Chagim. Kidoki. Friends, so we start the 7th parak talking about a fellow who makes a vow, I guess. So we're going to start in Daf Ayin about halfway through the Amud by the new parak. Amadar Sishto, so fellow who makes a neder, milahanuslo, that she's not allowed to get any benefit from him. She's not allowed to get any benefit from his finances. So ad lamed yom yamid parnis. So if this is up to 30 days, so we could set. Wait, is the parnis? Wait, one second. We've had so far a trustee, an administrator. Is this a custodian? Oh gosh, how do you define all these different things? What's this called? A steward. Great. Okay, so we have trustee, administrator, and steward. What am I going to tell you? So if it's up to 30 days, then you could have a steward to take care of the finances for her, on his account. Yasser mikan, but if it's more than 30 days, yotzi v'tei ksubis. So then he needs to divorce her and pay her her ksubis. Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, b'Yisrael chodesh echad yikayim v'shnayim yotzi v'tei ksubis. So if he's a Yisrael, so then for 1 month, they could stay married. But if it's for more than a month, so then they get divorced and he pays her ksubis b'koyin. But if it is a koyin, that if they get divorced, they can't get remarried because then she's a grusha. So then shnayim mikayim, we give it 2 months. They have a shlosha yotzi v'tei ksubis. But if it's more than that, if it's 3 months, so then they have to get divorced and he pays her ksubis. Amader sishto shlo titom echad mikol haperis. Interesting. So if a fellow, basically the way it works in this case is that she says that she's not going to eat a particular fruit, and he doesn't annul it, and therefore he allows it to come to be. So yotzi v'tei ksubis, so then they get divorced and he pays her ksubis. Rabbi Yehuda says yom echad yikayim shnayim yotzi v'tei ksubis. Says Rabbi Yehuda that if he's a Yisrael, so then after one, if it's for 1 day, then they could stay together. But if it's for 2 days or more, so then they get divorced and he pays the ksubis v'choyin. And if it is a koyin, so shnayim mikayim, if it's for 2 days, so then they stay together, shlosha. But for 3 days, yotzi v'tei ksubis, they get divorced and he has to pay her ksubis. Amader sishto shelo tiskashet echad mikol aminin. If she says that she's not going to use any kind of perfume or anything like that, and he allows it to come to be by he doesn't annul it. Yotzi v'tei ksubis, so they get divorced and he pays her ksubis. Rabbi Yossi says Rabbi Yossi, ba'anios shelo nosan kitzba. So by poor people, so if there is no time frame to this neder, so then they have to get divorced immediately. But if there's a time frame for it that she says, for a certain amount of time, so then they could stay together. For wealthy individuals, so then there would be a cap of 30 days. After 30 days, they would have to get divorced, and she would get her ksubis. All right, fine. So now, so the Gemara wants to know that how can he make a neder that she can't get any benefit from his finances? He needs to give her the mizonis. I mean, what do you want me to tell you? He's got to pay for mizonis. So, since he has a responsibility to be paying for her mizonis, how can he make a neder that she can't get any benefit from his finances? I mean, he has to pay her mizonis. So, what, can he just decide that he doesn't have this requirement anymore? After all, we learn, but we learn in the Mishnah that if the wife says that anything I make is also to you, he doesn't need to annul it because it belongs to him, right? He can't. It belongs to him, therefore she can't make it also to him, and therefore he doesn't even have to annul it. Alma. So we see, Kevin Dimishaibda lay, that since she is Meshubad to him, right, that anything that she makes belongs to him, Lavko Kamina Demafka Lishibude. So we can't just, she can't just decide that shibud that she has, that her things belong to him, just goes away. Therefore, he doesn't even have to annul it. So Achanami here also, Kevin Dimeshubad law, since he has a requirement to give her mizonis, Lavko Kamina Demafka La Lishibuda. He can't just undo that requirement that he has to pay for mizonis by saying that you can't get any benefit from my stuff. So I don't understand what's going on in the Mishnah. Ella, mitoch shiach but the answer is that since a fellow can say, well, how about this? You keep the stuff that you make, and I'm not going to give you mizonis. So so since he can say to her that you keep your ma'aseh yadayich, and I'm going to keep the mizonis, and therefore I don't have to give you anything. So therefore, when he makes the neder and he says that she can't get any benefit from his property, from his finances, so then it's as though he's saying, you keep your ma'aseh yadayich, and I'm not giving you mizonis. But the Gemara says, 1 second. We saw the statement recently of Rav Huna in the name of Rav, which is, a wife can say to her husband, Eini nizonis ve'eini osa, that how about this? I am not going to, be sustained from you. You don't have to pay for my food. And you're not going to get the stuff that I make. So, konam shani osa leficha. So meaning, if we're going to say that when he makes a vow that she's not allowed to get benefit from his stuff, so we automatically treat it as though he said, keep your ma'aseh yadayich, and I'm not going to give you mizonis. So then why don't we say the same thing that when, right, konam, where am I? Okay. So konam shani osa leficha, when she says that anything that I make is also to you, why do we say that he does not need to annul that? Lema, let's say that that since she's allowed to say, according to Avuna Marav, that keep your mizonis, and and any stuff that I make, I keep. So why don't we say that when she says that anything I make is also to you, so why don't we say that it's as though she said that anything that I make belongs to me, and you keep your mizonis, and therefore he would have to annul it because her ma'aseh yadayich belongs to her. So ela lotema nice. So don't say like our suggestion, which is that when he makes the neder that she can't get any benefit from his finances, it's as though he said, you keep your ma'aseh yadayich, and I'm gonna keep my mizonis. So don't say that. It's when he says to her, so it's not that we treat it as though he said it, and that, right, rather he actually said it. He had said, he said to her, you keep your ma'aseh yadayich, and I'm going to keep my mizonis. And then he says, and I'm making a neder that you can't get any benefit from my finances. If that's the case, pinus namala. Well, then how come we have the steward? So, right. If she, what do we need the steward for? She is making her own stuff. He's keeping his mizonis. What's the role of the steward? Bidilo sapka. Well, because her ma'aseh yadayich, the stuff that she makes isn't enough to actually sustain her, and therefore there's extra stuff that's needed. Ibidilo sapka, or the kushin the duchte. But if she's not making enough money, and therefore he needs to fill in the gaps, well, then it goes back to our original question. If he still is meshubah to her because he has to fill in the gaps, how can he say that she's not allowed to get any benefit from his property? Ravashi says, well, it's talking about a situation where she makes enough profit for the big things, but not for the little things. What are these little things? If these are things that she's accustomed to having, so if she's accustomed to having these things, well then she's entitled to them. And then we have our question, which is how can he make a neder that she can't get any benefit from his stuff when he has to be paying for these things? And if she doesn't normally have these dvarim ketanim, panas lamalo. So then how come we're setting up a steward so that she can get them? So well, it's talking about a situation where growing up she was accustomed to these little things, but he could not afford these things, and she said, you know what, beseder. Growing up I was used to these things, but I'm married to this guy now. I don't know, I guess he can't afford them for whatever reason. He's not providing them. It's okay. I'll deal with it. It's fine. To Amr Lei, out of Idna, and she says, until now, until this very day, to La Darton, until today, when you made a neder that I can't get any benefit from your stuff, Galgilna Bahadach, until today I was willing to just roll with it and saying, you know what, even though I grew up accustomed to these little things, I'll waive it, it's okay. But Hashta Da Darton, but now that you have made a vow against me that I can't get any benefit from your finances, Lo Matzina Di Galgal Bahadach, I can't tolerate anymore to just roll with you and relinquish these things that I like. So therefore, that is why. So initially, when he made the neder, he wasn't necessary, right? He wasn't meshubater for these things, and therefore it kicked in. But now she's saying, "I want these things," so we have to have this steward. What's the deal with the 30-day cutoff? Well, until 30 days, people. If it's less than 30 days, people aren't going to find out about it. Which people? The Yentis in the bungalow colony on Shabbos afternoon. Velozila b'milsa, and it's not, degrading to her. But tfei, but once 30 days are up, Shami b'inshei, one of the Yentis is going to hear about it. And the next thing you know, on Shabbos afternoon in the bungalow colony, they're all talking about her. Velozila b'milsa, and it's degrading. So therefore, after 30 days, they have to get divorced. Okay. Alternatively, alternatively, he made the neder when she was an arusa. So as an arusa, someone's like an arusa misle mizone, but if she's an arusa, then she doesn't get mizonis yet. Shegiazman velo nisu. Well, it's talking about where 12 months were up and they didn't get married because he was stalling. The Tanan, he gives man v'lo nisu ochos mishlov ochos b'trume. That if 12 months are up and they didn't get married, so then he provides her with mizonis. So therefore, he needs to give her mizonis, but that's only midrabanan. Midoraisa, right? He doesn't have to give her mizonis, and if he makes the neder, since midoraisa he doesn't have to pay for mizonis, when he makes the neder, it kicks in, it works. And therefore, the neder works, but midorabanan he has to give her mizonis because 12 months are up. So that's where the steward comes in. What's the chiddush of 30 days? Well, for 30 days, the steward will do, right? The messenger will do what he's meant to do. But more than that, he's not going to he's not going to do what he's meant to do. Alright? Alternatively, that he made the neder when she was engaged, v'nises, and then they got married. Okay. They made the neder when they were engaged, so therefore the neder works, and he didn't have to give her food yet. But then they got married, and now all of a sudden he has to give her food. Nises, hasava v'kibla. 1 second. But if they got married, then, if you had made the neder when they were engaged, and now they're married, well then clearly she was okay with not getting any benefit from his finances when they got married. Well, no, it's talking about a situation that she initially thought that she would be able to handle it. But now I can't handle not having any food. To which the Gemara says, 1 second. What do you mean that she thought she could handle what Meaning, he made a neder that she can't get any benefit from his finances, and therefore he's not going to provide her with any food. She gets married thinking that that it's okay, she can handle not having any food. And then it turns out that she can't handle not having any food. But we say that, that kind of excuse can work by movement. For example, if he had certain defects that she thought she would be able to live with, and they get married, and then it turns out, I can't live with this stuff. So Beseder, so she thought she could handle it. It turns out that she couldn't. But here, food is like a different story. What, she thought that she would be able to handle not having any food? If she could, that's not the kind of thing that you figure out after the fact that you need food. So therefore, that shouldn't work. So the machvatik is shanin meikara. Rather, it makes more sense like like one of the earlier answers. Okay, so for up until 30 days, so he can have this steward. 1 second, I understand. He made a neder that she's not allowed to get any benefit from his finances. But now there's this steward, but isn't the steward basically just doing what he wants? He's his messenger. So she is benefiting from his finances through his messenger. So Rafuna ba'omer kol hazan eno mafsid. Says Rafuna, well, he's not appointing him. He's not appointing the steward as his messenger. What he's saying is, if anybody wants to take care of my wife, you won't be doing anything wrong. And then the person kind of takes the hint and steps in. But 1 second. If he says kol hazan eno mafsid, is that really a loophole? Is that really a valid loophole? Does it really mean that the steward is not doing his, is not being a messenger of the husband? We learn in the Mishnah, you have a fellow who's thrown into a pit. And he says, that if anybody hears his voice, he should write a writ of divorce for his wife. They should write it and give it. So basically, he's just saying if anybody hears this, he should write a get for his wife. So they're basically, they can just go as his messenger and write it and give it. So doesn't it sound like here as well when he says kol hazan eno mafsid, that when this steward steps up, he's going to be considered the messenger of the husband? So to which the Gemara says they're very different cases. By the get, he's saying yichtov, right? He says whoever hears this, right? What was it? He says yichtov get leishto. Whoever hears my voice, write a divorce document. Whereas over here, he's not saying feed my wife. He's saying anybody who happens to do so would not be losing out. But 1 second, doesn't Rabami say b'dleika yitiru lomer kol amachabe eno mafsid? That in Masechta Shabbos, we learned that if there was a fire on Shabbos, they could say that anybody who extinguishes the fire won't lose out. And in that case, a Gentile can extinguish the fire. And we say that b'dleika yitiru, that dafka by a fire, it was permitted. B'dleika lemutei mai. When it says by a fire, what's it coming to exclude? Lav lemutei ki gavna. Is it not saying that dafka by a fire, you could say anybody who extinguishes won't lose out, but not by a situation like this when he says kol hazan eno mafsid, that if he makes a vow that his wife can't get any benefit from his stuff, and then he says right kol hazan eno mafsid, that should not work, because only by a fire it works, but not by this case. No, what it's saying is that by a fire he could say kol mechabe eno mafsid, but by other prohibitions of Shabbos, he would not be able to just say, whoever does these things for me would be okay. Right? Only by fire he could say that if anybody extinguishes it would be okay, but not by other Isurei Shabbos. But when it comes to this case, it would be okay, right? By the Mazonis. Masav Rava asks Akasha, Hamudu anoya mechaveru. If, Shimon says that he's not going to get any benefit from Reuven. But the thing is, Shimon doesn't have anything to eat. Shimon had said he's not going to get any benefit from Reuven, but Shimon doesn't have anything to eat. So what can Reuven do? So he can go to a storekeeper who he knows. And he could say to the storekeeper, look, Shimon doesn't get any benefit from me. But I don't know, it breaks my heart that he doesn't have any food to eat. So in that case, the storekeeper can give food to Shimon and then go back and get paid back by Reuven, and in that case, that would be acceptable. So Dafka, in that case, right, Shimon's not allowed to get any benefit from Reuven. So in that case, we say that Reuven can go to the storekeeper, but aval kol hazon einu mafsid lo. But in such a case like this, where the wife isn't able to get any benefit from the husband, and he says kol hazon einu mafsid, that would not be okay. Lo mi boya kamer, to which the Gemara says no, it's not this, not only this, but even that. Lo mi boya kol hazon einu mafsid. No, certainly in a case when he says if anybody wants to sustain my wife, that would be okay. That would be fine. He's just speaking to whoever will hear it. Aval hai, but I might think that in the case of the storekeeper, came the rogel etzlo, because of a ka'amarle, that, but since he has a relationship with this storekeeper and he's going and he's telling it to him, Kimanda amarle zil havle at domi. I might think that it's as though he's like sending him as his messenger, and it's as if he's saying go and feed him, which would be a problem. So Kamashman, that in such a case it is okay, right? Because the storekeeper is basically acting on his own. Kufa, we just said that if Shimon doesn't get any benefit from Reuven, but Shimon doesn't have anything to eat, so Reuven can go to a storekeeper that he knows. When he says to the storekeeper, that Shimon doesn't get any benefit from me, I don't know what to do. So the storekeeper can go and give to Shimon and then go back to Reuven and Chaparain. If Shimon needs his house to be built, or his fence to be fenced, or his field to be harvested, so Reuven can go to workers that he knows, and say to them, that Shimon doesn't get any benefit from me, I don't know what to do, he needs help. So they can just get the hint and go and do work for Shimon, and then they come back and chaparain their payment, their wages from Reuven. If they were traveling, Shimon doesn't have any food to eat. So Reuven can give it to somebody else as a gift. And then Shimon can chaparain and eat it, umuter, and it's okay. If there's nobody else to give it to, so Reuven can just put it on a stone, or on a fence, and he says, this is ownerless for anybody who wants it. And then he can just go chaparain, and that's okay. Rabbi Yossi says it's also my time with Rabbi Yossi. Rav says, how come Rabbi Yossi says it's also gezer mishum ma'aseh beis choron? So it's a gezer because of a story that happened in Beis Choron with something to do with like a wedding and a grandfather and a neder. But I guess we'll get to it in Masechta Nedarim. Okay, I guess in like a few months. Well, yeah, like 2.5 months. All right, that was Daf Ayin of Masechta Ksubis. Hope you enjoy. Peace out.